So this is a discussion that's going to go across many branches, and I still have plans that might involve a part 2 to this video. But let's just talk about kind of the upper limit of longboard race wheel physics. When do they get too big? When do they get too grippy? And what's preventing us from making a 100 millimeter, 80 millimeter wide wheel that'll just dominate the race course? This, idea has been brewing in my head for a while, and some of you might have seen in the past, I've kind of discussed, why do some wheels work better for riders than others? Like, for example, Venom Magnums seem like they don't work for a lot of lighter riders. And for that reason, I see a lot of lighter riders, when they're reaching for a race wheel, they go for a seismic alpha. The 75 millimeter alpha seems to work for lighter riders a lot better than a Magnum. And it's a complex question, because there's going to be light riders out there that love a Magnum, and there's going to be heavier riders out there that love an alpha. So there's a lot of subjectiveness and opinion that comes into this, but I think that there's also something to learn and something to kind of, talk about with just, different sizes of wheels for different weight classes of riders, and what's too big. And now I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. These are truly the size of elephants. These are the ABEC 11 Centrax. And ABEC 11 has two kinds of Centrax. And actually, I have the other kind over here. I'm going to grab it. ABEC has two kinds of Centrax, 75 millimeter. We've got an example here. I did not skate this from fresh. I bought these secondhand off Max Caps. And they have an 83 millimeter Centrax. And what's notable about the 83 mil, apart from just being larger in diameter, is that they're also 77 millimeters wide, making them wider than most wheels are tall. And I love big wheels. That's no secret. I like it. It's my preference. And so when these were introduced for $115, I thought to myself, I need to try those, because that's a lot of urethane for the money. You're getting a good price on a whole lot of meats. It's going to last you a long time. You've got a lot to go through. And I was already a pretty big fan of the 75 millimeter Centrax. I do want to get a fresh set so I can actually do a proper review. And if you've been paying attention to ABEC 11 and Max Caps, it seems like they're prototyping a new race wheel, probably this size, but with a larger, more supportive core that's wider, extends further out to the lips, and not as big a contact patch, because they've also come to the realization that these wheels are too big to work. So my first experience skating these wheels was at Maryhill, where I bought them from Motion Board Shop, had them delivered to the 2024 Spring Maryhill, picked them up on the hill, put them on my board, and immediately, very first run, got hardware bite because I was using trucks that were too narrow, and the wheels, as you lean them over, particularly in Never Ending Left, which is where it happened, the urethane would dig into the actual mounting hardware on the truck and absolutely tossed me from my board. And one of these wheels has the evidence. Which one is it? Is it this one? Yeah. This wheel right here, you can see where it started to grab, the hardware started to grab the urethane, and then eventually dug in like a nail going through a car tire, immediately stopped the board and threw me. But that wasn't a problem. I'm like, I'll just grind the hardware down shorter and I'll use a wider setting on my trucks, and that won't be an issue. And then my very second run on these wheels, I got snap oversteer in one of the repeaters as I was, skating these wheels kind of on the limit. Big tailwind that day. I was going pretty quick, felt good. I'm like, nothing can ever make these wheels lose traction. They're too good. And I got smoked. The wheels immediately slid out into a violent, chattery, unpredictable slide. And I got stuck in that slide position and then had to make a decision. Okay, am I going to try to hook this board up, or am I going to let this slide go all the way to a stop and potentially create a lot of traffic around a blind left for all the riders behind me to hopefully avoid? And so I decided I'm going to try to force a hookup, try to continue, and just high-sided. And went straight to my knees and gloves and slid it out pretty safely. But yeah, rough first experience on these wheels, and it was just a little bit of a hint that, yeah, wheels can be too wide. So to get down to kind of the problem, the like root of the problem, it has to do with the way that urethane squishes down into the pavement. What I felt most of all is that there's just too much contact patch for me, a 200-pound rider, to actually squish into the pavement effectively, giving the wheel good traction and, you know, a reliable transition from gripping to slipping. And they just wouldn't work. And I'm sure that this is what lighter riders feel when they skate Venom Magnums, is that they can't get all of that contact patch to actually properly engage with the road in a way that's going to be predictable. So here I am trying to skate this wheel. I took it to another race, a race that's largely a grip run with one, you know, kind of optional slide at the bottom, but you're going pretty fast. And none of the corners are too aggressive on this road. This is Brick Plant, one of the races that Ohio Downhill hosts every year. And they were working really well for me. They felt really solid, rolling over everything, tar snakes, chunder, things like that. That was so lovely at Maryhill as well. I skated these wheels more and eventually had good runs on them at Maryhill, always with the little, you know, premonition, you know, fear in my mind that these wheels could lose traction at any moment in a way that I will not be able to control. But the compliment I have is these roll over everything. They numb out the pavement, and that's so nice. But that's not enough, right? It means these wheels are usable in extremely niche situations. And I've got more skating to do to see if I can kind of resurrect these wheels, make them work for me. I've still got plenty of skin on the wheels. I've tried to grind down the lips by rubbing the board on pavement, as you might have seen Chase Hiller do in one of those Portugal videos. And still, every time I've slid these wheels has been a full disaster. Yeah, so what are some of the takeaways here? Well, there's a reason why, you know, wheels in general, particularly used for downhill, seem to have an upper boundary around 80 millimeters that companies are kind of butting up against. Some companies make wheels slightly larger than 80. Most we're seeing is 83, you know, the Mitch Thompson wheels, which I think are actually under my desk, crazily enough. Yep. 82 millimeters with a 70 millimeter contact patch, just as wide as mags, but even taller with the same durometer urethane. I'm a little suspicious of if these are going to work well for me, just knowing my concerns with having really big wheels. Am I going to actually be able to engage this contact patch properly? But what gives me a little bit of confidence in these wheels working for me is just how gummy and soft the lips are. Maybe the softest I've ever felt. The narrow core is going to give a lot of room for this contact patch to flex, deal with forces, and actually dig into the road in a way that's going to be, you know, predictable and satisfying. And so skating these this weekend, we'll see how they hold up, how they work for me. I've got high hopes, but these big chonkers, you know, they've got I've got some work to do, either breaking them in, getting rid of the skin, and, you know, softening up the lips so that maybe they'll work for me. But my other option, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing anyway, is sending them to a homie with a lathe so that he can chop down the lips, get a narrower contact patch. And as a matter of fact, this is something that Max Caps already does for ABEC 11 in their prototyping process. And in fact, today he just posted that he's got a bunch of like prototypes, like cut down versions of these wheels, that he was basically using these wheels as like a blank in order to try different lip profiles, try different widths, different offsets. And he recommended to me that I narrow them down to 70 millimeters. When I asked him, hey, these are too wide, they're not working for me, what should I do? He said, narrow them down. So yeah, it's very interesting. And it's, some of the takeaways are, if you yourself are a lighter rider, consider riding a narrower wheel with a smaller overall diameter, and you might experience a great improvement in control and possibly grip at the limit, being able to engage the contact patch properly into the ground. And if you're a heavier rider, skating smaller wheels, maybe look at getting something bigger and wider, because you have the mass to get the wheel to properly engage with the texture of the road surface. But that's all I've got for you. This is just some food for thought. Hopefully I can salvage these big ABECs, because they were very expensive, and turn them into something that's gonna work for me in the long run, that I'm gonna enjoy. And let me know if you have experiences with wheels being too big for you. You know, way back when Centrax first came out with the little core, they had the 77 millimeter version. I think they also had like a 83. Those were largely regarded as unskateable except for grip runs. They were just too monstrous, too uncontrollable in slides and at the limit of traction for people to really use them, besides a big old luge, which is gonna, you know, have different demands of a wheel than a stand-up skater is gonna have. So looking forward to hearing your guys's experiences, sharing those down in the comment section. And yeah, that's all I've got for you. Check out the Patreon if you're interested in, you know, some of my 3D printed designs, various foot stops, concave implants, and other neat little things. It's a nice little reward if you hang out there for a while. But I appreciate you all so I appreciate you all so very much, and I hope you have a great day.